It's time to talk about the important issues for the natural state. And there's only one place to turn for that. Opportunity Arkansas's Nick Horton. You can find Nick's work at opportunityarkansas.org.
And welcome back. It is the Wednesday edition of First News here on the 19th of November. It is just about 19 minutes in front of 8 o'clock, and that does mean it's time for Nick Horton, the founder and CEO of Opportunity Arkansas, to join us. And Nick, welcome back to the show. How are you this Wednesday?
Well, I'm doing good. You know, I show up some weeks, and I feel like we're kind of it's slow. It's August, September, non-election year. We're kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel for topics here, and
not today.
All of a sudden that has changed very quickly.
Not today.
Yeah, exactly.
We're in harvest time now.
That's right.
So I want to
harvest is plentiful.
I want to start with these special elections that went on, especially really the Conway one, the sales tax vote that took place yesterday. Part of it passed, part of it did not pass. Any surprise to you on the outcome? And the part that didn't pass, of course, is the 0.5% sales tax that would have gone towards the Grand Theater, the Convention Center, the things like that.
Gosh, I mean, I have to say I'm a little surprised, I think, because of the way they did this, where they passed it late in September, and then they put a campaign together really quickly, and they put it at a special election the week before Thanksgiving. I mean, this playbook is so tired, Toby. I mean, it's the same thing every go-around, and it's not just Conway. It's Sherwood, it's Little Rock, it's North Little Rock, it's Searcy, it's Cabot. It's all these cities and counties that realize, I mean, they're very strategic about when they put these things on the ballot. They do them very quickly. It always seems to be in the week of the fair or the week of Thanksgiving or the week of Christmas or whatever it may be. And thankfully, because of special election reform, and I'm happy to dig into that more because I think that's a very important component of this, but we've started to see a shift where you're seeing higher turnout in a lot of cases, and you're seeing, I think, a more fair result, frankly, because the special interests, the cities and counties and chambers and others that push for these things, they've got a plan. They're putting all this together in a back room somewhere and rushing these things through. And then the voters and folks like us that want to speak up and say, hey, wait a minute, what about the taxpayers? We often get put on our heels. And special election reform, I think, is really major kudos to our friend Representative David Ray, who pushed on that issue for years. It was actually, Toby, 3 years ago, the first piece of legislation that Opportunity Arkansas ever testified on at the state capitol.
Okay. And
it's really, really important to say voters at least deserve a fighting chance to know when these special elections are going to be. So I'm a little surprised, frankly. I figured they would just run up the score and that they had this big campaign and they'd raised all this money and that people were going to, the city employees and county employees were going to show up because they know when the special election is and they tend to get their way. But I'm proud. I'm proud of the people of Conway who stood up and said, we don't need all these toys and shiny objects when we have this crime crisis and we're not getting the basics right. There is still going to be a small tax increase, as you mentioned, for roads and fire and things like that. And we could debate that. I mean, maybe that was needed. I think the shiny projects, though, were a massive overreach, and the people spoke up. The people spoke up in Sherwood and rejected the sales tax overreach there. And a lot of good results across the state last night.
When I want to go back to something you said about this playbook where they roll it out quickly, get it into a special election. What is the point of rolling it out quickly? Is it just because you're going to tell everybody who needs to know who's going to vote the way that you want them to vote? You're going to make sure they know to go and vote, but it won't have enough time to spread out to the public? Is that kind of the methodology that they're using?
Yeah, I mean, you can just go even based off their public comments here in Conway and elsewhere where they've, we've been working on this for years. We've been working on this for months. We've been talking to people. We've been putting a strategic plan together to put this big vision together. I mean, they work on this stuff for a long time leading up before it ever hits the public view, before it ever hits the city council or the quorum court or the school board and gets referred out to the voters. So they've got their ducks in a row. They've got their campaign branding done. They've got their donors lined up. And then, I mean, the playbook that I think we have seen for decades in Arkansas is there's a full court press from the other side. They've got all their ducks in a row, like I said. And then the taxpayer advocates and the taxpayers are left scrambling. And because of the special election element, a lot of people don't even know that these elections are happening.
That's
so you see 5% turnout, 6% turnout. And so the people on the taxpayer side are caught flat-footed trying to say, hey, by the way, there's an election, number one, so you've got to raise awareness that there is an election happening, period. But then also you have this hurdle of educating people about what the proposals will do, about how high our taxes already are, and you're always playing catch up. You're always on defense because they run this playbook so quickly, and you're always kind of trying to respond. And so special election reform, I think, is going to make a difference. We've got more work to do there. I think you see right now, there's a primary in March, Toby. I mean, we're less than 6 months away from a regular scheduled election.
Right.
And you had over close to 24 special elections last night. That's ridiculous. There's no reason for that. There's no reason we couldn't wait until March.
Yeah. No, especially on at least the ones I'm looking at. There was no there was no time commitment.
There's no
here.
emergency.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's no. Oh, we got to get this in place by the end of the year, or the world's going to end. I mean, we could have waited early March. March. That's not that far away. And a lot of these, again, you think about how much buildup there's been and how long they've been planning and how long they say they've been. Well, we've been needing this for years. I mean, we've been in the red. We've been suffering. We've been falling behind other cities for years. Okay, you can't wait 3.5 more months?
Right?
Really?
I want to move to this involves taxpayers again, but this is a story that all of a sudden I've been seeing a lot from Arkansas, or Opportunity Arkansas is where I'm seeing a lot of this. Nick, is and so give us some of the details on the story that's developing out of Star City, where it kind of looks like maybe they're using taxpayer dollars to push an issue onto the ballot. Can you give us the details of what's going on here?
Oh, boy, yeah, and this is, again, unfortunately, something I think we're going to see even more of, because I'll just spoil the surprise. We've got FOIA requests, public records, freedom of information requests out to every school district across the state of Arkansas that had a special election last night, because what we're seeing as we just scroll through even their social media accounts is that these taxpayer-funded schools, these taxpayer-funded school districts are using their Facebook pages and apparently, it appears, other publicly funded resources to advocate for these tax increases, these millage increases. Now, state law is pretty explicit that is not permissible. There's a one-sentence statute that says no public resources shall be used to support or oppose a ballot measure. Star City was kind of one of the first ones that caught our eye, crossed our radar.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I mean, you go back and look at their Facebook page and what they've been doing since early June, even before the property tax increase was passed by their school board. They were already posting videos, graphics, all of these favorable, flattering things about how we really need to increase this. We really need this new building. It's going to take us to the next level. It's really going to help our kids, do it for our future, blah, 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 blah. They've been doing this for months, and they've been putting out graphics with election dates, telling people to contact the school district, like giving out the school district phone number and the school district email address if you have questions about the tax proposal. And there's there's a lot of nuance to this, because what they're going to say and what they've already come out and said is, well, this is all fine, this is all appropriate because we're just informing people and we're just educating people. And maybe they're right to some degree. Yeah. But there's a line there when you start advocating and using language like, we need your support to make this happen. We need the community to help make this a reality. With your support, we can do this. We can get this done. They're using all of that type of language repeatedly on their Facebook page. Well, who's paying for that? Who's paying for those graphics? Who's paying for those posts? When calls are coming into the school district about these tax measures, these ballot questions, what are people being told? What are school district taxpayer paid employees telling people about this proposal? And so Star City, unfortunately, is really just the tip of the iceberg, I think, because you've got Cave City, Pocahontas, Nettleton, school districts all over the state of Arkansas that are getting at least very close to this line. And there's got to be accountability. Laws are only good to the point that they're followed and that they're enforced, and that people call public officials out and say, "Hey, you're getting too far across the line here. We've got to course correct." And so there's going to be a lot more to come on this.
What's kind of an end result here? I mean, is it new guidance for schools to? I mean, obviously you said there's a one-line statute that says that this is not legal, but is it new? Do you get new guidelines for schools of how they would operate to pitch a tax hike, or what is kind of the end result that you'd want to see here?
Well, it's a good question because, again, I think laws are only good to the point that they're enforced and that public officials are held accountable to following them. And so that really is a lot of it is just vigilance. I mean, that sounds kind of too simple in some ways, but doing what we're doing, and we've had tips come in and folks from all over the state that are saying, hey, this is happening in my school district, this is happening here. And so that type of vigilance from the public and from your listeners, I think is extremely important because it's very simple, Toby. Like, taxpayer money should not be used to support more taxes. No. Like, we should not have our money used or again, the statute says very clearly, support or oppose. Interestingly, Toby, I was going back through my emails, this Star City example from 2024, I know we've talked a lot on the show about the Education Rights Amendment. Yep. I had a tip from 2024 that the Star City School District was gathering and collecting signatures for the Education Rights Amendment on campus in 2024. Now, we were never able to verify that. They said they didn't have any records that showed that. But this is a pattern in a lot of these school districts across the state, and these are publicly funded resources, and taxpayers should not be forced to pay for political activism. It's very, very simple. And so there's probably some changes that we need to make to the state law, the statute, to make this even more clear and create some real enforcement mechanisms there. And trust me, there are a lot of state legislators that are paying attention to what we're finding and are very concerned about this.
Oh, yeah.
So I will expect there will be legislative action on this next session. I'll just go ahead and spoil that surprise a year early. But I think vigilance is a big piece of it, and it's going to take all of us to just call it out. And I think over time, as there's more accountability, people will start to learn, public officials will start to learn that if you do this, like, you're going to get called out.
You're starting to get people's heartburn going before Thanksgiving, pal. So I like that. I like that. I like
Never
the disruption. So I like that. So, Nick, unfortunately, we've run out of time. I did want to get to, there is a new issue of non-debatable out, so go to opportunityarkansas.org, get signed up for that. The last episode, the last issue that came out, a lot about what Nick and I were talking about last week with the LEARNS Act and SB 625, or Act 920 now, I believe is what it is, with some of these new rules going into play with the LEARNS Act. So learn all about that. We'll get back to talking about that next week, Nick. But go to opportunityarkansas.org, get signed up for non-debatable. It's a great read. They did a really good job on explaining what is going on with some of these new rules that are coming in on the LEARNS Act. But Nick, always appreciate having you on the show, and of course tomorrow on the Finnegan Show, your colleague Jay Robertson will be on to talk more about these items as well. So make sure to tune into that tomorrow afternoon. But Nick, have a good rest of your Wednesday. And now, are you going to be available the day before Thanksgiving next week?
I may not be.
Okay.
We'll have to talk about that.
That's fine. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I just like to, just throwing it out there for people.
No, but I will say, to your point, Jay's going to be on the Finnegan Show tomorrow at 4:35. He will have an update on the education freedom rules that you mentioned. So, and we will also have a part 2 non-debatable coming out in the next 12 to 24 hours on that. So if folks aren't signed up, go to nondebatable.com and we'll have a really in-depth update there.
Okay, man. Well, we appreciate it, and we will talk to you again soon.
Happy Thanksgiving.